Hey everybody, there are some so-called Oakland A's fans who just don't get baseball business dynamics. Take this coin head on Twitter and starts with, do you think the Athletics are still looking to relocate if Joe Lacob had bought the team instead of John Fisher? Please be honest. And I said that my 2012 Zenny 62 YouTube interview with Warriors owner Joe Lacob answers your question here. And so all you have to do is click on it like that, and you will see John responded.
He really came after us pretty aggressively. I mean, we certainly were having conversations.
As soon as he was elected, right?
Yeah, we were having conversations certainly with everybody, and we're looking into all options. But he really came after us aggressively, and his staff, some of the people, Jen Matz was very involved in this, and I have to give them a lot of credit for being great visionaries and being entrepreneurs.
Hey, Joe, I have to ask, how much of this is a criticism of the JP Coliseum as a guy who worked for the Coliseum? I mean, what really started this from the Oakland?
There's no criticisms.
Okay,
I mean, clearly the previous ownership of the Warriors, not us,
right, had
issues that we all know in the courts with the JPA. When we came in, we did what we should do, which is settle all that. We wanted to have a clean slate, and we did that.
Right.
And we have a very good, I feel, a good working relationship with them. I do think it's not the easiest. It's a public venue. We don't have control of the venue. It's not the easiest thing to manage, and it's an old building, and there are a lot of problems. But that has really nothing to do with this. At the end of the day, we really looked everywhere and we said, where is the single best place that we're going to invest a lot of money? And in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, wherever you are, California, pretty much, we knew it had to be, privately financed.
Right.
We're going to write a check. If we're going to do that, we had to pick what was the best place for our fans, the best place for our investors, best place for everybody.
But Oaklanders are going to wonder, was Oakland aggressive enough in keeping you guys?
Well, I don't want to get in trouble with Mayor Kwan.
Right.
I think they're challenged because they have three teams that they're dealing with. And, in all fairness, I'm being empathetic here.
Yeah, I understand.
They have a difficult situation. And, it's not like they can go build three stadiums. That doesn't happen anymore in this day and age. So...
And with about redevelopment, because redevelopment's killed now.
Redevelopment monies went away. It's a difficult situation.
Right.
And I think that, they will be successful, I'm sure, at keeping at least one of those franchises, and they need to focus and work real hard to do that. We just felt for us, we're the first shoe to drop, I guess you could say.
Right.
But it just felt for us, we had to make an objective, independent decision that was the best thing for us long term. I think if you come here, you look at this, and you get approached by San Francisco in a way that was so aggressive, so entrepreneurial, so positive, it's kind of a hard package to beat.
What's the total price tag for this?
Well, we don't know the exact price tag yet, but it's certainly
600 million, maybe? Ballpark.
Certainly 500 million or more.
Yeah. Are you at all concerned with litigation from Oakland?
I'm not going to comment on anything like that.
Gotcha.
How great is it to make this announcement, as well as the D-League team is announcement moving to San Francisco?
Yes, it is. We're very excited about that. It sort of expands our footprint in the Bay Area. I think Santa Cruz is going to be an outstanding location for the D-League. Having someone who spent some time down there over the years, I think it really, really is going to be great for that community. And I know they're very excited down there to have it. And all our players and our coaching staff are excited because we'll be able to drive back and forth, either Oakland in the next 5 years and certainly later from San Francisco. It's just a great thing. We can develop those players and be in close proximity.
What other cities you look at?
For
the arena in the Bay Area? Was it just the Bay Area? Or?
For the Warriors?
You have to move out of Oakland. Which other cities
Well,
you look
we weren't looking to move out of Oakland. We certainly spent a lot of time thinking about Oakland and looking there, and we spent a lot of time in San Francisco. We considered San Jose, though did not pursue it aggressively, in all honesty. We just felt, I didn't want to be disingenuous. We didn't want to be disingenuous and do something that really probably wasn't going to work for us. We felt that we looked at where the majority of our fan base comes from, the majority of our fan base, and they're really evenly split between the East Bay and the West Bay. And we just felt that we needed a place that everyone could get to, that was great public transportation. Look, the bridge is right there. You can drive right over from the East Bay. You can take BART in from the East Bay. It's actually, you get there quicker from some parts of the East Bay than you can to the Coliseum side. And there's the idea that there's not parking around here is not true. There's 16,000 spaces within a 20-minute walk. We've commissioned a study on that. There's all kinds of financial district and all the parking is walking distance. You can try it yourself. The Transbay Terminal is going to be in the same year we're opening this arena in 2017, and it's the largest transit hub in the western United States. Muni, BART, the expansion over there. Everything. It's all there. The ferry comes right to this site. You can't beat this site.
Joe, is this?
Now, see right there, that, give a shout out to my friend who created this nice music. At any rate, Emily Palin made that, especially for Zenny 62 Media. But at any rate, he never looked at it. He said, please be honest. I gave him the answer. And he didn't respond. Okay. JL says that he was in Las Vegas, says the key to a thriving city is to have leaders that will push economic development. And so he responds to him. And he says, great point. Okay. And then he says, is it fair to say the same about a successful franchise? And there's a lot of assumptions here, but the point, if you bother to, Coinhead, if you bother to actually watch the video, is that Joe Lacob would have done the same thing in either case, regardless of whether it was the Warriors or the A's. He would have looked around. If Oakland government was not being responsive in the case, appropriately responsive, Oakland government was not being appropriately responsive. I don't want to take anything away from my friend Fred Blackwell, who's the economic development director, but in the fair criticism of Fred, he played a lot close to the vest. He didn't understand the political situation. He tried to really do a lot of things behind closed doors, and meanwhile, the Warriors were literally plotting against him behind his back. And that's behind the city's back, and there's no other way to put it. And then meanwhile, Gene Kwan admitted to me at the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club breakfast, which anybody involved in politics in the Bay Area should go to on an annual basis. She admitted to me that she said, I don't understand. I didn't understand how popular the Warriors were. She said that because she wasn't tuned in to, that aspect of her own city. It begs the question, hey, you going to these events and everything? Were you? Now she's a fan, right? But back then, and she didn't want to send the signal, and this is typical of Oakland politics, didn't want to send the signal that sports were more important than the people who have these needs. Look, everyone has needs, and every city has its pathologies. That's no reason to pay no attention to your key businesses that are bringing the most attention to your city and therefore causing people to visit your city more often than any other kind of business in the city. All right? Oakland never seemed to get a hold of that fact and act on it. And this is another example. And so, meanwhile, San Francisco, under now late Ed Lee, my first consulting client, got it. And Joe Lacob said it, aggressively went after them. And that's going to happen if would happen to be that Lacob was the owner of the Athletics. It would have been the same dynamic. People have been coming after him to leave Oakland and relocate. That's called good economic development. You go after an organization, particularly if you think the organization is vulnerable and not being well taken care of by its host city. And that was certainly the case with respect to the A's and the city of Oakland as a whole. When I say as a whole, I mean in terms of looking at from mayor to mayor, from council member to council member, actions taken, many actions not taken, and so on, all right? So Joe Lacob would have done the same thing. In fact, when it was predicted that Joe Lacob would buy the Warriors and move them out of Oakland. I was a number of people who said, oh, no, he wasn't going to do that. But then I made a video saying, hey, look, please don't do it. It's all over that you're making overtures. And he did it, okay? And there were a lot of upset fans. He did it. But worse, the city of Oakland did nothing to stop him. No lawsuit, no effort to try to get an expansion team. So who's the real culprit? It's always Oakland government for not doing something. And I don't care where you look in our sports history, the one constant is Oakland government not doing what every other city does. That's the one constant. And people like this fellow, Colin Head, need to get that. All right. And so he says it has to be privately financed. So basically he did watch my video. I wonder what his thoughts would have been about a privately financed development Oakland, the shores of Oakland. It would have been the same. It's just like, because John Fisher said that, all right? And so Joe Lacob had his privately financed. And so, and Coinhead said this interview isn't the smoking gun and one might think it is. Yeah, it is the smoking gun. And this is what I'm talking about this guy. This guy has no idea of the history. He has no idea what he's talking about at all. He's just sitting back and making comments about stuff he knows absolutely nothing about, and he's undoubtedly quite young. So he wasn't around, or was undoubtedly a little tyke, when John Fisher purchased the Athletics. And he was a little bit older, 5 years, when Joe Lacob purchased the Warriors. It is now 2025. Think about that. So that's from that is 15 years ago. 2010 is 15 years ago. This is 2025. He was 15 years younger. I looked at his picture. He looks like he's maybe 35, maybe 37. All right. So look at 27, 20. Okay, right. All right. So he doesn't qualify as the kind of person who really has been around enough and paid attention long enough and been involved in enough Save the A's activities to really understand what happened or expectations. Everyone expected, not just Joe Lacob, but anyone who gained ownership of an Oakland sports franchise, to move this franchise out of Oakland. That was true for the A's as far back as 1996, when Sean Hoffman were first trying to move them to Sacramento and then sell them. And the only organization that really looked out for the city was the Haas family, when they had written into its lease that any buyer of the A's had to keep the A's in Oakland, and also the point of contact was to be the mayor's office, and that fell to me. And that fell to me in 1997. I organized a potential buyer team of Frank Robinson, John Cariotis, and Magic Johnson. And unfortunately, that never came to pass for reasons best known to John Cariotis, who, as I understand it, really never followed up on the contact information that I gave him. And thereby, really scuttling what I know would have been a very, 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 very successful and exciting partnership. But it's when people like this guy, just put things on Twitter like that, showing that he doesn't get it. It's just annoying. And A's fans, see what this fellow doesn't understand, and what A's fans don't understand is that the advertising base at the Coliseum was so small that you could not field a competitive team with it. You couldn't. And even if they sold out, let's say, 40,000 a game, you have more money for the Athletics, but still not quite enough to offset the fact that they only get ad revenue in the stadium for their games, nothing outside. If the Rolling Stones play a concert at the Coliseum, the A's don't see a dime of that money. All right? Not a dime. By contrast, at their facility in Las Vegas, they control the flow of revenue, and they will see dimes from the Rolling Stones and other events. That's the norm today. Think about it. AT&T Stadium, when AT&T Stadium had the Mike Tyson fight with Jake Paul, you know who the beneficiary of that was? Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, because they own the revenue stream that Cowboy Stadium produces. That's also true for the Raiders. That's why the Raiders franchise value has zoomed so greatly in Las Vegas. The Raiders could have had the same thing in Oakland. If Howard Terminal were done correctly by the city stepping up to the plate in a timely fashion and completing its tax increment financing responsibilities in 2021, the A's would have enjoyed the same outcome. Oakland's government does not respond in a timely fashion. Oakland's government responds in an Oakland fashion, which is woefully slow and completely ignorant of economic development need or business timetables. And that's been Oakland's problem for a long time. No owner of any team wants to deal with that. And again, the facility, the stadium facility or ballpark facility or both, is supposed to produce enough revenue to pay for players. That's why we have baseball-only stadiums, football-only stadiums, or say primarily football, primarily baseball, because the owners of those facilities need more money to pay those salaries, and they need to have it from more events. That's why more of these facilities are domed. When it's outdoors, you don't get as many big events because, hey, look, inclement weather, it starts raining. Producers may call it, say we can't do it because of the rain. But you have a dome stadium, don't have that problem. These are all should be basics to any athletics fan. I don't care what your feelings are, what your stripes, you should know what Dan Rasher and I, the term we coined, baseball business dynamics, and it was expressed in my Oakland baseball sim world that I built in 2003, 2002 really, and used to launch my first company, Sports Business Simulations, which a game that was used in 40 high schools and colleges around the world. So you all, there's no excuse in the internet age for not understanding the dynamics of baseball business. You have to understand the need for a stadium to produce revenue for its sports organizations. All right, subscribe to Zinnia62 on YouTube. Bookmark ZinniaReport.com. See you.